Okay, good evening, everyone. Time is 6:31, and I'm calling the meeting of the Human Relations Commission to order. First item of business is roll call.
Say roll call.
I'm sorry?
My apologies, I was distracted. Commissioner Alvarez? Here. Commissioner Baker?
Here.
Commissioner Kaplan?
Here.
Commissioner Cole?
Here.
Commissioner, hold up please one more time, help me say your last one.
Just ignore the H's.
Ignore the H's.
Remove the H's.
Karai, all?
Correct.
Karal, thank you. Commissioner Pickett? Here. Commissioner Tamimi will be here in about 15 minutes. And then we've got ex officio Kate Snow, I see, and ex officio Commissioner, excuse me, you guys, I'm tired. Michael Villalobos tonight. And then Lisa and I are here. Councilmember Linda is not able to make it tonight.
Thank you very much, Carrie. We have a quorum, and we have one member who will be joining us in a minute, or a couple of minutes. Let's get underway then with the next item, which is approval of the agenda. If folks have had a chance to look at the agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll motion.
Motion,
Motion to approve the agenda.
yeah, motion by Ellie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Felix. Thank you, Felix. And then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We are underway now. Then with brief announcements from staff, commissioners, and liaison. I just want to begin by wishing everyone a Happy New Year, to everyone celebrating Rosh Hashanah this week. And also welcome back our UC Davis students who are such an important part of the community and I think really enrich and diversify us despite the additional traffic and noise that I've noticed this week. But I really want to really appreciate the students returning and all that they bring to our community. I don't have any other announcements. Does anybody else would you like? Okay. Carrie, and then any announcements from staff?
Just a couple quick ones. I wanted to remind everybody that Davis Neighbors Night Out is coming up on Sunday, October 5th. We currently have 116 parties happening around town on that day. 5,000 invitations have gone to various households, and so we estimate that hits about 15,000 people. So we're excited about that, moving forward with final planning. So check out the online map, which is on the city's main webpage. It has all of the parties listed, and you can see if there's one in your neighborhood.
And remind us again of the date, Carrie.
Sunday, October 5th.
Sunday, October 5th.
Second quick announcement is I just wanted to remind you all that you should have gotten an email a week or two ago from our city clerk, Zoe Mirabili, inviting everybody to a commissioner chair, vice chair training that is open to everybody who wants to come. You do not need to be a chair or vice chair. You maybe will be one in the future. So it is Thursday, October 9th, I believe at 6 o'clock, Lisa, do you recall? Okay, I think 6 o'clock at the Davis Senior Center. So please go to that if you are interested and available.
Great, thank you, Carrie. 5,000 invitations, man. Okay, if I may just really one quick question. We had, I think, a question last week about the recruitment process for filling our vacancy. I'm wondering if there's any new information on the status of the process.
I'm going to turn that one to Lisa.
Oh, okay, Lisa.
I don't have an update for you. We just closed our recruitment currently.
Okay, so, okay, that recruitment application process is now closed, and the process will be going forward with wherever you're at. Okay, very good, thank you. Lynn?
I might need Kate to help me with this, but last year in the DJUSD, there was a group of students that spent the year exploring dehumanizing language and its effect on our schools. And we started out the school year with a presentation from those students for all teachers in a big gathering all together at our big beginning of the year breakfast. basically asking us very specifically to combat any dehumanizing language that we saw in our classrooms. And they created this lovely sort of little statement that went to all the teachers in the last week or two to sign, just promising that we would be very intentional about combating dehumanizing language in our classroom, and all the students are going to sign it, that they will stand up to it. And so because it comes from students, I feel like teachers are going to like do anything that students ask them to do, basically. And all the students, at least at the schools I'm familiar with, seem to see the importance of it and valuing it. So they just appreciate the school district for being intentional about having those students get together. And I hope it makes a difference to some of the dehumanizing language we've heard in schools. I don't know if Kate wants to add anything.
I appreciate you bringing it up, Lenny, and I would only add that, yes, you're absolutely right. There was a superintendent's student advisory on combating dehumanizing language, symbols, and behaviors. And the students spent the year, really looking at what was happening and also building some understanding of how the system works a little bit so that they could figure out how to encourage adults to be supportive and each other and to educate each other as well as adults. And the only other thing I would add is that they came up with a slogan for the campaign, which is to know better, do better, be better. And so that is an ongoing campaign. There are some schools are having little wristbands, the elementaries are having wristbands, and it's an ongoing process to get everyone connected to it. But there's a new superintendent's advisory that will be announced in the next week or so that will be continuing the work of that original group, and 6 of the original members from last year will be continuing with the new ones this year. But the superintendent's really committed to following the students' lead here and committed to keeping this work going very explicitly. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So that's a, I think, great initiative. This is a question to Kate. So are there any mechanism in place to monitor and see if, if such programs, such as you just described, if they're making any difference? Like, do we?
Great question. Thank you for asking me, Mary, because then it lets me talk about more of what the students got at, because the campaign and the education was sort of their initial push, but one of their real concerns was how do we know how much is happening and what are the responses being? And then down the road, can we figure out if we can lessen the number of events? And so our next step in the process is actually calibrating what we're doing internally to track in a way that will make it possible for the students to know on a regular basis. We do, for instance, currently track vandalism, for instance, that contains identity-based harm, but we don't have a way to track interpersonal activities, and so they're very interested in there being an accountability cycle and process for that, and so that's part of this year's work, is to develop that. So thank you for asking.
Well, thank you, Kate and Lainey. Maybe after it's piloted in schools, we can even think about bringing it citywide. But thanks for the good work on that. Okay, other announcements from commissioners? Okay, seeing none, I think we can conclude with that item and move then to general public comment. This is item number 4. As I think most folks in the audience know, this is for items that are not listed on the agenda or are listed on the consent calendar. We will also allow for public comment at this time for, if you can't stay, for an item that is on the agenda later. With that introduction then, anyone like to come forward? I see we have our first public comment. Good evening.
Good evening, I'm Ron Glick. I wanted to draw your attention to this publication dated, what's the date on here? July 28th, 2025. It's in the American Psychological Association publication, Trauma Psychology. It's by Davis's own Leah Hibble at UC Davis. Mental Health in California Jews Before and After October 7th, 2023. And, you know, there's still a lot of people that aren't happy with that. You guys still have that MAPA thing up. The least you could do would be put this up there with it. This is really relevant to Jews in this community and all over California. Also, one of the conclusions that's made in this article is that their findings have applications for any group who's dealing with something, a war going on halfway around the world, and the psychological impact that can have on people far away. And I think no matter what side of anything you're on, I think we've all been experiencing this. So I would encourage you, in the interest of public discourse, to take a look at Dr. Hibbel's paper, and I think that you should put it up on your website because it is relevant to this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Mr. Miller, good evening.
Alan Miller. Jews throughout history have had to hide who they are. I think it's time that we drop our pants to this idea and lay bare who we really are. And yes, I have clothes on under my clothes. But rather than hide who we are in Davis, Jews can accomplish this by denouncing the Jewish state. This is satire. Hey Jew, don't be a Zionist. Denounce Israel and be morally better. Remember to toss your cap and your star. Then you can start to be Jew better. Hey Jew, you are a Jew, only so you can weaponize your identity. The minute you get under that Zionist skin, then you begin to be Jew better. And if you just can't blame Hamas, hey Jew, because you wear a keffiyeh upon your shoulders. Well, for Hamas, you are a tool, to real Jews, a fool, for making Hamas a little bolder. Oi, 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 they. Hey, Jew, call it genocide, and of course apartheid, minimize 10-7. Remember, blame Jews in whole, not in part. Then you can start to live in Davis, 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 Davis. Wah! Oi, 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 bay. Oi, bay, I'm no longer a Jew. Oi, 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 bay. Oi, bay, was I ever a Jew? Self-hating, Jew-hating, manipulating. Oi, 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 bay. Oi, bay, anti-Zionist Jew. And you can be one too. Thank you.
Free speech and free song.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh, I do have a question. I don't know if you afford you, are you a real Jew? Because you're singing about Hamas, you know. My name is Ning Wan. I'm the granddaughter of lost Chinese Empire. I'm the legal owner for Ning Wan. So probably I was here, you know, I was falling on the street, get hurt so hard. And now I found out those Chinese communist spies in our community. And what I found out is, you know, those they call themselves red maple grannies, they're not human. Yeah, and I believe I'm a, Chinese people are actually the real Jew. Well, real human are real Jew. I'm a real woman. And those who want to hurt me, who want to throw me out of the, my residence, they want to kick me out and they want to make me a homeless, they're not human. And so I want to draw attention, I'm a real woman. I feel my human rights, my woman's rights has been violated, because they want to kick me out of my house. The good news is I want to let everybody know, I am the owner of the park as well. So, the HCD, California Housing and Community Development, sent me another letter and say, there's something going on at this property. So I kind of want to just draw attention to people, after the pandemic, I believe that a lot of communists come to here. And I write a letter I haven't submitted to the new Davis city manager yet. But what I found out, Jenny Tan is not human. It's a Chinese Communist Party member. It's a eunuch. It's a very ancient, communist organization called the Dharma. It's from ancient time, from the Chinese Empire's family. It's the first eunuch. It's the first robot made by the Chinese Empire. That's Jenny Tan. Actually, Jenny Tan is my ex-husband's stepmother. It sounds crazy, but Jenny Tan, your city manager, stealing money from me because Newman Soul Power is under my name, Newman, and it is under my social security number. I own the money, it's 382115064. And Jenny Tan is a communist, actually use another name, Japanese store, kicking me out of, I rent a house, I divorced with my ex-husband. I moved from, Evergreen, $1 million house, because I kind of feel guilty because I'm falling in love with another man. So I moved out, like my son and my daughter with his daddy has a house. I rent a house, but it's from there, Jenny Tan actually kicking me out of the house, putting me under 5150 involuntary hold.
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up.
Okay,
Thank
yeah,
you for
I want to let everybody know, this community is infiltrated by the communists and they're not even human. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Mr. White, good evening.
Hello, good evening. Yeah, good to see the students back. And by the way, I did like hearing about dehumanizing language because on Friday, August 22nd, Jewish kids in Davis began the school year by seeing graffiti that said "Free Palestine and liberation by any means necessary" at our high school. Jewish parents contacted the high school to express concern, and one parent was told this was done by a student task force to draw welcoming and decorative artwork. Now keep in mind, multiple anti-Semitic murders and political assassinations have now been committed by activists screaming "Free Palestine." Keep in mind, liberation by any means necessary is used today by Israel haters on campus to show Jews that they support terrorism and violence. So where are children in Davis getting these ideas? To scroll violent terror-supporting slogans at the high school, where is this coming from? Probably from social media and probably from activists like Ahed Tamimi. Now recall that Dima, you promoted this author to the Davis High School students in our town. And Kevin, you also held the book up and you promoted this book on February 27th without even reading it. Okay, this author, Ahed Tamimi, recall she allegedly posted on social media, "We will slaughter you, and you will say that what Hitler did to you was a joke. We will drink your blood and eat your skull." While her circle of supporters attempted to deny the statement, there was plenty of evidence to suggest she did say that, and she has a long history of calling for the annihilation of Israel. What is irrefutable is that very recently, 2 weeks ago, Tamimi was quoted as saying on an Arabic podcast, "I was raised to believe that Judaism is occupation. Today, tomorrow, and in a million years, I will continue to say that Judaism should be presented to Palestinian children as occupation, and that we are fighting Jews, not Zionism." We are fighting Jews, not Zionism. The point is this. Ahad Tamimi is an open Israel hater, and the HRC promoted this deranged author here, and now we're seeing graffiti in our school. And so I'm just going to ask, can you be a little more cautious, do a little more diligence before you promote these type of people in our community? I have to also mention that there was, when an HRC member protested this author being promoted, he was subjected to 30 minutes of continuous hatred in this building by the leading anti-Semites in our town. That's tough. That's tough for us, and that's why I'm here today.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else then for general public comment? Mr. Hirsch, good evening.
Good evening. I hope you saw an article about the Jewish house in the time of God. It's a very difficult time to be a Jew. I didn't study in the synagogue. Let me talk about the hate-free summit that's coming up, and I have some thoughts on that. Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk memorial service was last weekend. And it was very interesting in seeing in terms of how people responded to the hateful act of violence and what was done to it. And talk about hating hate, which, hate-free seems to go in that direction in terms of how you negate hate by hating it. Is the angry imagery that was used by the preachers at the memorial were certainly appalling to me. Instead of calling for the nihilistic hopes and prayers, they called for revenge, violence in response to using state-powered violence to shut down their political opponents. It was a funny sort of symmetry to me. You turn your opponent's hate into political license for you to shut them down. You take the hateful acts and manufacture a license to do other things that wouldn't otherwise be morally appropriate. And we can think back to 9/11, where certainly the attack on Afghanistan, where the source of the attack happened, when we turned it into an attack on Iraq, which was certainly a disastrous war, and the torturing of prisoners by the Americans, and certainly hundreds of thousands of Iraqis that died as a result of that war. It was a justification, we had a justification for revenge. And I would suggest that October 7th, you might conceivably say the initial war in response to Hamas's attack was justified. That certainly is a self-defense reaction. It's a continuation after 2 years now. And the humanitarian crisis seems to be justified based on their vengeance on that. That's the problem with fighting hate with hate. It turns into vengeance, and vengeance turns to license. And vengeance also was turned into police. Then the police de-escalating a situation of a peaceful protest because it was illegal. They escalated, they didn't call out the riot troops, but they gave them a license to basically attack them and shut them down the license. It's a justification for escalation by the state. And that's why I think we need to be careful about this hate for hate sort of response and rethink how we're going to turn the hate-free Davis into something about love, about how do we do reparative damage and not just hate the other people who are certainly are falling short of what we want in our community. Thank you for listening, and thank you for working so hard on this very difficult issue.
Mr. Hirsch. Okay, anyone else then for general public comment? I don't see anyone. Carrie, if I just asked, do we have any written general public comment?
No, that was me.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, then seeing no one else coming forward for general public comment, we will close this item and move to item number 5, which is the consent calendar. The one item on the consent calendar is approval of the minute of the last meeting. And if there are no additions or corrections, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting. If anyone would like to make such a motion.
I'll motion.
I will motion.
All right, motion by Dima to approve the minutes. Second
I'll second.
by Lady. All right, all those in favor then say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, and the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We will move on then to item number 6, regular items. And the first item here, item A, is our Sanctuary City Work Plan Committee designation. At our meeting last week, we discussed the work that that was started by the committee earlier in the year. We concluded that committee as we did all of our committees, but wanted to return to that issue because the work was incomplete, and we did some really good initial work to get that started. And we talked last month about how we might move forward with that, and particularly with respect to some of the issues that we might sort of take on. And I think it seems to me, at least, that we might have a need for some additional outreach to folks. The prior committee, and I'm going to ask those members of that prior committee that are here to jump in a minute, but the prior committee, I think, did try to do some good outreach. We weren't able to get, I think, a lot of engagement with some of the folks that I think we would want to hear from. I think there are stakeholders, including the university. Obviously, the school system is dealing with this issue. Businesses, hospitals, police department, etc. So with that introduction, I wanted to just sort of orient us back to the discussion and think about what we might do this evening to kind of get underway with what sort of additional fact gathering or other work we might want to undertake to move that work forward. And Felix, I'm going to look it over at you, and because you've been deeply enmeshed in this work.
Yeah, I was thinking this weekend, or the weekend after the last meeting, and then the past few weekends, about how we can kind of break this work up into subcommittees, which is, I think, something that we especially want to wait for the full commission to be here to be able to discuss that and see how we're going to break that up. You're right in that we tried to do some outreach. We invited folks in the community, organizations, individuals, groups, to come to one of our meetings when we were initially discussing this, in hopes that we sent a questionnaire. I think it was the questions, and we're hoping for some feedback. I think, unfortunately, we didn't get as great of a turnout as I think we were hoping. At least the folks that showed up to the meeting, and then correspondence by email. We had a few responses, but not as much as we were really thinking at that time we were going to get. So definitely, as part of one of our subcommittees, I think that we should include some outreach in a way. Maybe setting up some meetings, really going out and meeting with folks rather than just sending them, a questionnaire, where they're just really, they're in a box and they're just going to answer those questions. I'd rather hear from people, get a broader, sense of what's going on.
So some dialogue with
Definitely.
folks who are working in that space.
Yeah. So. I have some suggestions for how we can break up some of the items on the work plan. I think we should review. I don't think there were any changes by City Council to the work plan that we submitted.
That's correct. The language that you see here is what was submitted to council and was approved.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read those off really quickly, and then we can start discussing, I think, how we can break those up. You'll recall we talked about reaffirming and updating the city sanctuary city language as needed. That could include changing the language to the proclamation, to the maybe added language, or even introducing some sort of ordinance as we suggest to the city to change up what we currently have. Updating the previously created informational card available to the public. That was the yellow border card, I believe was what it was titled, which has information that was pertinent to 2017, but hasn't been updated since. And so it would be nice to update some of that information on there. Creating a one-time publication. Lainey, in her travels, ran across a really great publication from the city of Seattle that they had. It was filled with know your rights information and things like that, and I think some anecdotal things and outreach, which I think went in line with kind of what we're thinking about doing, and then taking those conversations and then putting it into a nicely packaged informational packet to pass out to the community. So something that we can do with that information that we gather right there. Providing education, engagement, and resources for businesses on supporting community members, patrons. I think that could also include, their employees as well. But again, more engagement with the community, with our businesses, with our city staff. Offering education and training for city staff regarding immigrant rights and protections. So I think that would probably be something that we can discuss here and then figure out what, who we'd have to speak to with the city in terms of setting that up, which I think Carrie will probably help us out with that quite a bit. And then lastly, conducting Sanctuary City public education, including a potential forum and website updates. So again, not necessarily a forum where we again invite the folks to come to us, but maybe set something up where we can kind of break it into smaller chunks and then reach out to different groups that way, and then come back to the commission with that information and then set something up that way.
And are you thinking then, Felix, that we could use the list of items that you just kind of previewed for us as kind of a way of organizing our discussions?
Yeah, absolutely. So I broke it up into 4 subcommittees that I think could kind of streamline and break this, this work plan up. The initial subcommittee would, or the first would address the resolution, ordinance, research, and look at what we currently have, research other cities, other counties, what they have in place, and then come together or come back with something that we propose to the city. A second subcommittee could, now these are just suggestions that I was thinking, but so we can workshop this. The second would be the breaking it up to the yellow border and the publication. So updating the yellow border card with know your rights information, and then working on that publication, whether it's a newspaper or a flyer, because I think those 2 things kind of go hand in hand with researching the current information, current know your rights stuff, and then putting that together. And we can use the example that we have from Seattle. We can also search for other examples and use those as templates. We don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to do something similar that relates to our city. Let's see, and then research engagement with local businesses and city staff. So another group could get together and figure out what ways we can do outreach to our businesses, and then how we can get the city staff included in that. And then lastly, I think that the work of reaching out to organizations, individuals, and then just gathering more information, I think it's going to be a pretty heavy lift. And so that in and of itself could be a subcommittee as well. And then we can always come back and work together, sharing information. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Felix. I see Lainey, and then we'll have others join in.
I appreciate all of your thinking about that and the fact that you helped us get this organized into sort of different tasks in the first place. My best thinking, and maybe this is based on my own level of the amount of time and energy that I can have right now, but I'm wondering if we might want to prioritize these and just pick maybe 2 to do first, because this is the human beings to do this, and 3 of us got to get MLK up and running real quick. And so we're all already on planning commissions that have a good amount of work to do, or planning committees that have a good amount of work to do. And so I'm wondering if we broke this, if we did all 4 of these right now, we'd have 2 people probably on each one, and somebody would have to be on 2, even if we only had 2 people. So I'm just wondering, like, what if we picked 2 and just divided sort of in half and just put our energies into 2 with sort of a 3-month time limit or something, and then really just try to get those done. And I wonder if some might build on others, like for example, the Sanctuary City Public Education, including a potential forum and website updates. I wonder if that would come after we create a publication, and then we would use that publication, which we'd already thought through in terms of all the information that ought to be included, and we use that publication as the sort of foundational information in the public forums, for example. So that's my suggestion for, like, if we do half of them first half of the year and half of them second half of the year, something so we can really put several people's best efforts into doing something well and completing the task. My 2 cents.
Okay. Mir, did you have a question?
Yeah, so I agree with Lainey. I think that's just a lot of things to do at one time. To me, the lowest hanging fruit are actually the things that have to do with language and online research that has ChatGPT all over it, which is a really useful tool. So I think that just makes it even a little bit easier to generate a draft. You can work with it on editing. It will do, the best online search that any one of us can do, right? So that seems like the first couple of items that you've mentioned are very kind of, online research and language-based. So,
Excuse me, I don't understand what is this section for what kind of people?
We're actually in discussion among the commission now, so if you can hold that, thank you.
Yeah, because I don't understand.
Okay, we will have public comment on this momentarily. So, let me just turn then to the rest of the commission members and get any thoughts.
Yeah, I could definitely see this maybe working in 2 phases. One more of a research phase, particularly thinking about the outreach and trying to hear what people need and what their opinions are or experiences are before we publish something. It's so hard because we're up against logistics, but also like this is such a pressing matter as well. So I think and also as a researcher myself, research can last forever, right? Like you always want more and more information. So I think that if we do choose to pursue maybe kind of like a research phase and then more of an output phase, we should just be really strict on ourselves to set deadlines of saying we're going to gather information until this point, and then we need to start doing more of this outreach and education stuff. I also just want to very politely and respectfully push back against using ChatGPT or any other generative AI program in this work, largely because they're often wrong. So I think especially when we are researching language that has really high stakes, we want to make sure that we're going to original sources and not chatbots. Just as somebody who has worked with students a lot who use these chatbots, they get history facts wrong, like very simple facts that are just straight up wrong. And so I think, and there's a lot of other ethical reasons to probably not use those kinds of sources, but I think doing this research is important and will be interesting for us.
Thank you, Ellie. Dima.
Thank you, Felix, for kind of breaking it all down, because there are a lot of things. I do think that starting with two subcommittees could be a good way to start, just so we don't have too many. I also agree with Ellie that we should probably set some time box it a bit, otherwise it does feel like it could take too long. The two things that sort of came to mind as I was thinking about all the things you mentioned that could be ways that we split it up into two subcommittees is I do think there's the research on the language and the resolution itself, and that's like one body of work that is sort of similar in work, right? It's more researching, figuring out past ways to do it, and then writing. The other one, the rest sort of seems to me it falls into sort of an outreach and campaign building. And I think there is a little bit of research that goes into that. It's also like figuring out, because I think in some of these cases we might find that there's people that are already doing the cards or people that are willing to do the publication within our community that we can partner with. And they actually really want to do that, but they'd like to do it with like even more people behind it, the city, this commission. So I think that could be just looking at outreach and campaign as a holistic thing, and part of it in the beginning will be like researching who could we work with to do all this campaign work, and then formulate a plan on the actual campaign. So those are the sort of two ways I was thinking we could break it up into two subcommittees.
Thank you, Dina. Hilda, please.
So I agree with Dima regarding the outreach. I think we need to know what resources we have first and what is needed. Like, do we have data on what incidences we've had so far? So if we don't have this information, it's hard really to know which direction we're going to go. Yes, the language needs to be changed and all of that, but I think we need to know the input from the community and also what resources we have that we can use.
Right, makes sense. You know, as I'm listening to this, I was sort of just thinking about what, who we might particularly kind of reach out to, and just sort of thinking out loud for a minute. It seems like there are sort of governmental entities and non-governmental entities. There are advocates who are working in this space, whether they're folks that you may know personally, Hilda, who are working with the immigrant communities and aware of the challenges and needs or the gaps that may exist. And, you know, in that non-governmental space, there are the business groups, Felix, that I think you were alluding to. You had mentioned hospitals in the past. I know the church groups have been another interest in this area, or another interest group in this area. And then there's, you know, the Davis Phoenix Coalition, for example. I think, Dina, you mentioned the cultural community that was created to look into this, among other issues, as I understand it. So we've got sort of a set of kind of non-governmental folks, and then we've got governmental entities, whether it's the university or the school system. I mean, I feel like they have been grappling with these issues for a while, and may kind of have it figured out. Or they may decide that there are ways that they can be supported by the city that we haven't yet done. There's the City of Davis agencies, social services and housing, for example. I know interfaces with the immigrant communities and have been the source of targeting by the Trump administration and ICE on, you know, trying to get at that client service community. And then, you know, maybe there's the county or the local law enforcement that we might want to consult with too. I mean, they're certainly an important stakeholder, I would think. So I don't know if it makes sense in terms of outreach to think about it in those two buckets or not. But it's fairly, it could be a fairly lengthy list. But maybe each group could decide then who is sort of most important. And this idea of a deadline, I think, makes perfect sense. One question we might just toss out while we're thinking about that is if we focus, for example, in terms of prioritizing either outreach and or the policy drafting, researching work, is it reasonable to think that we could have progress by either October meeting, or would we want to go into November for that? And I think we should be realistic about it, not overpromise, but we do have some potential scheduling complications because our November meeting won't fall on Thursday because of the conflict with the Thanksgiving holiday, but we should plan to have a November meeting, presumably before the Thanksgiving holiday. Maybe, please.
I'm not sure if this is crazy or not, but is it possible that each one of us, that we had like a 1 month research period where each one of us took one of those entities you mentioned and prepared something that got into the notes for the next meeting about what we learned about what they're already doing and what they don't have the bandwidth to do or something like that, and then we would just do this broad survey of everything we can learn, like, I don't know, is that a possibility? I'm
Would
just
you be
trying to think.
volunteering to reach out to DJUSD? Just kidding.
I think, no, I'd rather, I want to learn something different. But I'm just, since you mentioned that whole list of, between all of us, if we picked one and we just kind of accumulated a document that was like what we already know that's happening in Davis, based on each of us taking one area of research, I'm picturing like we split into subcommittees and then we start duplicating efforts immediately because two different subcommittees working on two different things want to get information from the same groups. I don't know. Just an idea that came to me. It may be bad, maybe a bad idea. I'm willing to accept that.
So rather than creating committees that would be doing multiple stakeholders, we would break it up so that each individual person would do one or two. Okay. Thoughts?
Do we need that many?
Lisa?
Do we need that many stakeholders? I think there are specific people that would know, and we need to just go to those people, like law enforcement, refugee organizations, rather than like having, businesses maybe, they're impacted, but I think it's more impactful to go to those organizations that are directly involved, rather than going to like everyone in the community.
I think you're suggesting, if I understand correctly, Hilda, that even within our kind of universe, there might be kind of higher priority, kind of
Yeah.
more immediate targets that we might want to prioritize. Is that
Exactly.
Yeah. Other thoughts then on how we might go about this? We can do committees, we can do individual assignments.
I was thinking committees could work if we, and I kind of explained my thoughts around like which committees, and I was thinking that they could be somewhat distinct because one is really ultimately, their goal is to get the information to, there are definitely some overlap, so, bear with me, but one is really to think about the language around the resolution. So they're kind of, researching what's happening around the country. They're researching language and dealing with the situation we're in now. Maybe even dealing with like looking at historical resolutions too, as just some context. And then in some cases, I think they are reaching out to some of these partners to understand how they're thinking about it, right? To like really get the context of what's the best way to speak about this. But then I think the second committee is really more like, how would we communicate this message to the community? How would we rally around a message like this ordinance that would educate people, get people to understand that, not only their rights, but also that the city is thinking about these things and has things, that there are resources available. And that to me is like, it's pretty different than what the resolution ordinance is. And so I think they could be distinct things that have a little bit of overlap. And I actually think the fact that we would have to meet in early November or earlier November gives us like a 6 weeks versus just a month, which would allow for the committees to at least meet twice, and in between be working. So that's one way to get a little more time. I think 1 month is not enough time. But we could say that our November meeting is when we come together from those two, you know, if we want to go with those two subcommittees or some variation of it, that could work.
Okay. Let me just raise a question then in terms of the sort of the policy versus sort of or policy and research versus outreach. I guess one of the things that occurs to me is whether, as part of the outreach, we might want to be asking people like, what do you think the policy should be? And I'm wondering if it might make sense to kind of, as part of our, prioritize the outreach piece, whether it's in committees or whether it's individual. And then, as one of the questions being, in fact, I almost think of the list that Felix was sort of beginning with this. These are things that we could cover with the people that we talk to. It's like, well, what do you understand the policy to be now? How is, if you're an institutional stakeholder like the school district or the university, what policies do you all have in place? And you know, is that a model that is or isn't useful for the city given its different role? Would a newsletter be of help, or is somebody else already doing that? Or you know, just think of those things as sort of questions. And Felix is envisioning kind of a dialogue and a conversation as opposed to trying to get people to respond to a questionnaire or something, right? So we get to kind of have that back and forth a little bit around those. What are the needs? What are the gaps? You know, what are the challenges?
Yeah, so I've heard a lot of really great things, and I think what I like most, or from what I've heard, is I like a combination of what Lainey said and what Dima said, which had a little bit sprinkled in of what everybody else has kind of mentioned, which is great. We're doing our job, but I like if we could break it up into the policy and research and then the outreach, right? And then, so have those two as subcommittees. But also, I think, so depending on what subcommittee you choose to be on, then maybe each one of us can choose an organization or a group or whatever that relates to that, and then reach out to them. So whenever we set up our next meet or our subcommittee meetings, right? Maybe let's say we do it in 2 weeks. We have 6 weeks. We can meet twice, right? So let's do in 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks to reach out to someone, whoever that may be, and then maybe you get some information back. Bring that to your subcommittee, and then now you have information from 3 different sources to kind of chew on within your subcommittee, and then that can inform you also on what you're doing within that subcommittee. And then if you haven't heard back from the person that you reached out to or whatever, you have another meeting again before our next meeting. Or if you did hear back, maybe you'd like to get with your subcommittee, and you can think of maybe additional questions to bring back to that individual or that group or the organization or whatever, and then go back to them again the next 2 weeks. Or if you like to do some additional work, you choose a different group or a different organization or a different whatever to then reach out to again, and then bring that back to your second subcommittee meeting. Maybe more work, but I don't know. Maybe that's my suggestion.
This is just a clarifying question. So it sounds to me like we're talking about entering like a research phase, like Ellie said. The one group would be researching like the lived experience of people who would directly benefit from a sanctuary city, and we haven't defined who that is because that could be multiple groups, right? And then the other group is researching more institutional, what's already being done, what language is out there around sanctuary cities, what language might go into like a know your rights type of. So one is researching like policy and language and institutional stuff, and one is researching lived experience. That's the more like outreach that you were saying. And then when we put together all of this research, we would move on to maybe the bottom, those are all then we would move on to like, could we create a workshop for businesses? Could we create like to the next steps of action? Is that?
Yeah, thank you for putting my thoughts into a more coherent package. No, I like that. And breaking it up that way, so the institutions, right, so that subcommittee could reach out to law enforcement, it could reach out to city staff, it could reach out to the hospitals, perhaps, right? Whereas the other subcommittee, can reach out to organizations that are working with the people, Yin, NorCal versus Phoenix Coalition, right? And then bring what information they have, what they're doing, and then bring that back to their subcommittee and talk about that.
Okay, further thoughts on how we might organize this work? Seems like it's taking shape around the proposal that Felix and Lainey were just describing. I'm going to try to make sure I can kind of crystallize it for myself. So the group looking at, or committee, excuse me, looking at, as it was described, folks with lived experience, and that I guess I would put in that category sort of nonprofit groups, churches, and just to make sure that there's not overlap between folks, so that we avoid the problem that Lainey was kind of alluding to. And that would also be, who else? Like the business groups too, or who would?
Yeah, I mean,
Schools, churches.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, businesses, schools, churches.
And then the institutional entities and policy combo, if I'm understanding it correctly, would be more of the governmental entities. Okay.
Right, so yeah, reaching out to our law enforcement, researching current resolutions that other cities have, going back and looking at historical data about resolutions in the state of California. And then the hospitals, did we talk about hospitals there?
Just a quick question with that one.
Please.
So, because I understand the historical research and researching other cities more. For that one though, when we're talking to law enforcement, let's say, is it really more about trying to understand how they understand it as policy? So we're also trying to kind of parse out what might be actually on paper versus how it's currently being played out? Is that part of that research?
I think that our agencies here in Yolo County were pretty forthcoming initially when this whole thing kind of took off. And they put out a lot of great information. So I think maybe just reaching out to them in terms of what they would like from to see, from us, or for us to convey to the community, and not necessarily what procedural, things they have in place right now, but rather what improvements they could, what information, how we can serve them also, as well as maybe, kind of reassuring that what they are doing is in fact what they promised to do during that press conference.
And just to add on to what Felix said, for example, with respect to law enforcement, we've got the policy and it's in police department's manual, and I'm sure that they're complying with it. But one of the issues that has come up in other cities that I've heard about is with respect to data sharing, which is not, cooperation with ICE in terms of on the ground, holding people and transferring them to ICE and that kind of stuff. But it's the sharing of information that can be used. And is that something that has come up here? I don't know. Just as an example of things that we might explore. And with that, I also want to kind of reach out to our ex officio members who are sitting there very patiently as they do, but have a lot of wisdom to share with us, both from the school district and from the university and from your experience with serving these communities. So I don't want to overlook this expertise. Not to put you on the spot, but please chime in to help guide us.
So my belief, as far as the University of California's system, has not taken a position on the language about sanctuary or the designation of sanctuary. We rely on the principles and policies that specifically address privacy, the role of the police department in terms of non-cooperation with federal immigration agencies, for example, when they're conducting ICE investigations, for example, and also in the healthcare as far as access for everyone. So I think a great place to start in terms of the university is the Undocumented Center. They will be able to provide in terms of the relevant policies and principles that our campus and the system certainly uses that speak to the principles that respond to safety for our people.
No, definitely. We reached out to them in our initial phase and got an answer to the questions that we sent them. But it would be really nice for someone to sit with them and maybe gather more information.
Happy to facilitate.
Sounds like you have an idea which subcommittee you.
Kate Sawyer, I want to invite you to kind of add on too, if you'd like to.
I appreciate the deliberation about how best to do this. And I think about the things like the Cafecito group where, we're very connected, they're part of we're connected with, and what lived experience there will help inform, and has already, I think, informed some of these discussions. I think also there are policies, for instance, right, there's a new designation from the governor that we are inserting into our school safety plans. It's a requirement that we insert into our school safety plans about responses to race on our campuses. So there's certainly up to the minute activity and changes and responses happening for us. I think that it is important to look at other models. I think it's also important to understand what's useful to people, and something like the Undocumented Student Center is very much developed around the needs of particular students, and so the more we understand what people need, the better we are able to create or propose a policy and information and education that would be supportive. So that's what I have for now.
Thank you, Kate. Celia?
I was just thinking that during this initial sort of research and outreach phase, it would be super interesting to look into, and I think this has been mentioned briefly, but look into finding people or organizations who would be willing to help us with a publication or Know Your Rights card, because policy is changing so quickly. A lot of those aren't up to date, and it would be really great to have something that we could pass out at school.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Okay. Is there sort of further thoughts? We're talking about a couple different committees. I'm going to go with the vernacular lived experience and institution. And I guess it's institutional / policy research, and then outreach folks with lived experience. Is that sort of the consensus? Okay. Go ahead.
Can I just
Please.
ask, will there be any visuals like posters or things around the city to show that Davis is a sanctuary city, just to ensure, to make it more visible to And at what stage would that be? You know, probably that's at a later stage, but I think it's important to also incorporate this in the plan.
It's a good question. And those of you who have looked more closely at the city's existing sanctuary policy or prior resolution may remember this better than I do, but I have a recollection that there was something about signage in that. Please, Carrie, our historian.
There are, as you enter Davis in 3 different locations, there are signs as you come into town. And I understand this might be different than exactly what you're talking about, Hilda, but what currently exists is as you enter into town, I believe it's 3 different locations, it does have signage saying that Davis is a sanctuary city.
But could we do more towards that?
Yeah.
Sounds like something we should talk about.
Right. Good point.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to make sure that we are moving. It's further than that. I mean, just not having the old signs, maybe to make it more visible.
Right. Right. I think that's an important part of people, giving people a sense of belonging. So let me stop at this point and just invite the public comment before we sort of take any actions on this, if there's any public comment on the discussion. Mr. Hirsch, please.
Hi, I appreciate your concern. This is really important, but things are happening now. Things are happening now. I'm on the Migrant Watch list, and possible ice at Watt Avenue near Cyril Spit Elementary School. Please check out Marconi Roseville Road. Report of ice detaining landscapers if anyone can check it out. Court Watch, does anyone help us with the Court Watch? I mean, this is what's going on right now. And a sanctuary city is nice, and we have 3 sides of the many entrances. I think we should do more. But the point of this whole thing is people need to feel safe. We need action. We need some visibility in the community. And I'm wondering whether we could do some visible, at least putting some more signs. Maybe not in our town, maybe a bunch of yellow ribbons. I mean, I do my little thing with my little signs, where you're from, glad you're in your neighborhood. But somehow we need to show that we will stand with these people. These people are afraid of showing up. And let me show you how pervasive it is. All these cameras we see, a lot of them are Flock, and Flock shares their camera data with ICE. So you roll into Home Depot, they have cameras there, and they see the license plate, gotcha. This is what's going on. That's why people, there's a little thing, shop at Ace, not at Home Depot, because there are the cameras there. But there are Flock cameras sitting in the middle of the parking lot at Davis. The retailers like it because they can track people shopping, but then they sell the data to the ICE. So we have some problems. We should show them. We should embarrass the merchants who basically engage with Flock, who shares the data with ICE. We need to do some stuff. And I think not in our town cameras. We need to be visible. Make the people feel safe, because this is really what's going on. Thank you for taking this on. I don't want to minimize your work, your hard work, and your efforts. It's really important. But a little more bias for action might be more effective. So thank you. This is so important. We're in really fraught times, and we are losing our democracy because people can pick up anyone on the street without a warrant. And people are afraid of that. Anyone, even me, but especially if you have the wrong color skin. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Good.
Hi again, my name is Mingwan. So on September 15th, I received a letter from City of Davis, and it's to applicant and adjunct project owner residents. And it's about the project high density 6-story emergency shelter will be built at 240 G Street. So this kind of connect to what I understand. Davis want to be like a statutory city. That means it will have accept a lot of refugees. Is that what you're talking about? About the city?
Yeah, it applies to
the refugees. So my question is, where are the refugees come from? You know, we after the pandemic, we lost a lot of life, and City of Davis, I'm not active, but I was a realtor. So I driving around the city, I show houses. So the vacancy is very high. And I prepared a letter to the city manager. I don't think, we need that high density, 6 stories high, like I don't know how, I don't remember, it can host like 10,000 people, very high density. Think about the safety for the city and your house value. So I'm not encouraging with what you are talking about. I don't even know this was statutory city language. But what I heard is in 70 years ago, China was taken over by the communists. And what happened is, the communists actually bring a lot of, I talked about the Jamie Tan is a communist.
Ms. Wan, we're just talking about the sanctuary.
Yeah,
policy
sanctuary, the shelter needs to be for people, not for the communists. So you need to be careful with that. And for the Chinese people, 70 years ago, they lost their home, lost their property, like my family. And, some escaped to United States, but some locked into China. And the communists, and they would send all these soldiers to your land, to your city, to control you. You lost your freedom. So I want to I want to share with everyone, when you're talking about a refugee, needs to know where are they come from. Are they come from the communist China, and the Kamala Harris is a communist, and who wants to bring Chinese troops to the United States. And Jamie Kang is also communist. And what to bring is a lot of people, they are robots, and all mind control robots can taking over people's property, your retirement, your life, to come as a like a care given, come to help you, but eventually take everything from you, your freedom and your life. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, seeing no one else then for public comment, we're back to the dais. Is there someone who, and maybe that falls to me, to articulate the motion if we needed to be described again, or
Lainey saw her hand raised, so I'm not sure what she wants to say, but I was.
Lainey, you're volunteering.
I tried to put
Yes.
some words, so I'll try.
Okay.
Do you want to say something, Karen? No, I was just going to suggest you could do it one of two ways. You could make your motion with your designate. Actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to retract my statement. You're going to make your motion of what you want your subcommittees to be, and then you're going to do a second motion as to who's going to be on it. Thank you. Sorry.
All right. In one fell swoop, can I propose 2 subcommittees, or is each one a separate vote?
You can go ahead and do one, I think, and Lisa will capture it. She's amazing.
Okay. So, and tell me up here, this needs wordsmithing. I would like to propose the creation of a subcommittee that researches the lived experience of people who would benefit from a sanctuary city, exploring what the city might be able to do to better support them. We can call it the Lived Experience Subcommittee. And then the other one, I would like to propose the creation of a subcommittee that researches language, policies, and current practices of local institutions and comparative cities around sanctuary city related content. We can call it the Institutional Allies Subcommittee. How do you feel about it?
I'm very happy with that. Does anybody else have anything to add, revise, etc.? Okay. With that understanding, and I'll take that as a motion, is there a second for the motion?
I will second this motion.
Second by Ellie. All those in favor then, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, none, and abstentions, none. Okay, so that motion carries. We have now created the 2 committees that Lainey has just described, and we'll move on to talking about the composition of those. And maybe we'll just take them in order and ask if there are folks who want to be on that first committee particularly, and then we'll move to the second committee. And Hilda, would you be willing to sit on that first committee? Because I feel like you might be a very valuable member for, in terms of the lived experience.
Yes.
Okay. I won't volunteer anybody else, but I wanted to make sure that you weren't overlooked, Hilda, because you've got such great Okay, and we can have up to 3, right? So, other folks who would like to be in that group?
Yeah, I would like to join the lived experience subcommittee.
Okay. Okay, so we have Hilda, Felix, and Dima. And if that sounds good to folks, so let's move forward with that. And we'll maybe just vote on that since we're got that in front of us. And with the committee composition, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Kevin, was that your motion, and was there a second to that one?
Oh,
I'm sure I seconded that.
yes.
Okay, so Kevin moved, Laney seconded the composition of the Lived Experiences Subcommittee to include Hilda, Felix, and Dima. Yes?
Thank you. Moving too fast. I appreciate the clarification. Okay, so now we've got the second group looking at sort of institutions and policy.
And here it occurs to me that since it can only have 3, somebody is not going to be on either. And that did not occur to me until just this moment when I was proposing we only do 2. I don't mind if I'm the one left out. I also don't want to be on the subcommittee. I don't know if maybe, I know that we have, Dima is the Hate Free Together liaison, which is already like an extra job, but we just put you on the last subcommittee. So I don't know how to decide who wouldn't be on one, but I just want to say out loud that I didn't realize I was going to leave somebody out until right this minute.
I mean, I can bow out and somebody can take my spot if we want to have more even subcommittees.
I could just work real hard on MLK if other people want to do this, so
Yeah.
I think if you're happy to do that.
Right, I don't think we want to discourage anybody who's already kind of volunteered to do something, which, and if that leaves somebody out, I think we all have enough work to do, and we will all be contributing at various times of the year, and that person's input, of course, will be very much appreciated when we gather again to discuss our results. So, but thank you for flagging, because I hadn't thought about it either. Okay, well, with respect then to that second group, I mean, I'm a policy guy, so I would volunteer to be on that committee if folks are willing.
I will also volunteer.
Policy people. You're going to be rock, paper, scissors. It's you or me. Okay, so I will volunteer to be on it. Okay, we're going to keep on here in the wings for the dirty job that we don't know what it is yet, and then he's going to get it. I'm just kidding. I would be happy to be on this subcommittee.
I mean, take a question from Sawyer before we move forward.
As an ex officio, I don't count towards that 3 cap, right?
Well, here's the thing, we have to get clarification, I think, from Carrie on this, because
We do have an update in our commission handbook that I emailed you guys all, whenever it was, a month or so ago, and I know that was a lot of information. Unfortunately, included in that information was that ex officios cannot officially be part of a subcommittee.
I see.
But however, you can be consulted as part of that subcommittee, as part of their research. So, both subcommittees, Sawyer, can actually reach out to you for your thoughts and whatever information you'd like to share with them. Thank you. And
Can
apologies.
I ask Sawyer if you had a particular subcommittee you were interested in? Because I also think that doesn't bar us from inviting Sawyer to our meetings, right?
Sawyer would have to participate as it would be similar to research that you would do with anybody else.
Oh, okay.
As, collecting information.
So,
I don't exist.
if I'm understanding, Sawyer wouldn't be able to sit in on sort of a group discussion, but the group could consult with.
Absolutely.
with Sawyer. And I think the question then was, if I understood correctly, was there a particular area that was more of interest to you, Sawyer, than the other? Or they could both be?
I was particularly interested in the second one. However, if it's overly complicated, don't worry about it.
The
So
second-
what you share is very valuable, so we want to make sure that your thoughts are heard.
I'm going to be on the second one, and I will reach out. Thank you for raising it. It's a good question, and thank you for your interest.
Sorry to go on a tangent really quickly, but did we decide that was different for the planning committees?
Yes, we did decide that, and I had clarified that with the clerk's office, that the planning committees, because we often, for instance, for Cesar Chavez or MLK, we might actually want to reach out to, I don't know, maybe we want to work with the Black Student Union at the high school for MLK, and they'd be part of our planning committee, which is a different context than a subcommittee and something like this.
So would it be like on item C, if Sawyer wanted to be added to one of the planning committees, would we need to like vote to officially do that, or could she just?
We could do that in item C.
Sure, okay. So we'll bring that up again.
Okay. For my benefit, which items? Oh, okay, thank you. Gotcha.
So I would like
I'm
to
following.
propose that Kevin, Ellie, and myself are the second subcommittee.
Okay.
I think second, right? Is that a
Yes.
recommendation? I second it.
Well,
Seconding.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you, both. And all those in favor then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, and the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we have 2 committees underway, which is a great accomplishment, and I think we're all very excited to get started on this important work, as Mr. Hirsch reminds us. The next item that I think we can move to is just the exploration of additional commission priorities for our work plan. And just by way of introduction, before we go to public comment, I think there are 2 committees that I'm thinking of that were that we initiated last time that and you might want to consider revisiting. One, we had some discussion on at the last meeting with respect to the website project. We didn't have the advantage of Dima's participation in that discussion, and we have her today, so I wanted to make sure that we had some discussion about that issue. And then the other is the responsibility that we have with respect to the Civil Rights Ordinance, which is a prior committee. So with that introduction, let me then just open it up for public comment. Those are not obviously the only issues that we could potentially create committees on, but those are 2 that I think are kind of already been flagged.
Just a general observation, I don't know where this fits, but if hate is, definition of hate, the hate is the receiver feels something said is hateful, that's an incident. I believe this evening there were 2 hate incidents in this very chamber. People called out people. To me, calling somebody else an anti-Semite is a hate incident. That's a pretty strong thing. So I think there should be some discussion about what is a hate incident, and discussion about that. Because it's and what's the decorum we have here. So I don't want to take that, but it's very disturbing to hear some things said in this chamber, which is supposed to calm things down a little bit, and it's taken, and there's free speech and all that, but it's kind of we should be talking about civil society and some way of dealing with some of the incivil behavior that may be legal, but certainly is rude and actually fearful in some cases, because we know that the accusation of anti-Semitism can lead to deportation and loss of grants. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your comment. Anyone else then for public comment on this item? Seeing none, let's then bring it back to the dais, and maybe we'll start then with the consideration of whether we want to revive the website committee. This, I think, is a less urgent task, but in terms of just sort of thinking about what our work plan might be, if this is something that we want to undertake, maybe just identifying it now and taking that first step, even if it's, you know, lesser priority than I think the more urgent one that we were just talking about. But I think that there was a lot of great work done by the prior committee. It didn't have a chance to come completely to fruition, but I would think that we might want to talk about whether it is worth revisiting. So I'll open it up, maybe turn to Dina in particular, since you were, I think, our leader on that, and we were all very appreciative of what was done by the committee.
Yeah, I think there's a good amount of work done already, so I would love to see us continue to try and see what can happen with it. I did have a question for you, Carrie. I know that the website, the general city website, is going to go through a revamp. Do you have a timeline on that?
I'm not part of that group, but I did coincidentally get an email on it today, and it looks like there are some things that they're required to put in place by a deadline of some sort in 2026 that are required. I think that as you guys are having this conversation, I would just ask, because this will have to go to council for approval, so I would just ask you guys to really identify kind of some specifics as to when you say, you know, looking into the website, what kind of things you'd be looking into and what kind of things you'd want to propose doing, because I'll have to put that, you know, forward to council with some descriptors along with it. So knowing that they've got kind of a 1.5 or 2 year plan, I think that they need to revamp quite a bit of it. They'll be working on that, and you guys can maybe keep that in mind as you go forward. Because I'll have to, as I'll put this forward to City Council, I'll probably have to talk to the lead of the website committee to figure out what they're doing and kind of put in some of that context into the proposal to council for the work that you guys might want to be doing.
Okay. So one thought I had is we have a presentation that we put together for the time in which we presented on this. I think it was the last meeting of last year. I'm curious if we could have that be what goes to City Council, and really, I mean, I think the next step would be helpful to have this subcommittee talk to the people that are building the next version of the
I
website.
think we first need to get approval from council to even reconvene this subcommittee.
Can we have that, those two things that they approve, that we reconvene the subcommittee and as a part of that? Or maybe we don't do that, we just say we reconvene the subcommittee, but then if, okay, let's say we reconvene the subcommittee and they approve it. Are we gonna, as a subcommittee, have to get approval to talk to the website team?
No, that would be just me trying to coordinate a meeting with you afterwards. So the first step would be me having a good understanding as to what your focus would be when you're looking at the website. We bring it to council as we do through our new process of these are the things that the HRC is proposing that we do. I just did that recently with all of your sanctuary city stuff, so it would be in that same format.
Okay.
And then, so I just need enough to know, you know, kind of your bullet points of what you want to work on. And then I would separately as staff, because I have to put staff recommendation in there as well, have to chat with the web design committee to find out from them, you know, what kind of thoughts or concerns or anything that they might have that would overlap and include that into the proposal to council. And then if council approves this, your proposal to do X work on, you know, make recommendations on the web page, then certainly from there, I could connect you with folks in the web group.
Perfect.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think first step is get council to approve us having this, and then we go from there.
Yes, absolutely. And as you're doing that, just make sure to come up with some kind of bullet points of things you want to hit on.
So I think what we want to do then is articulate specifically enough for Carrie's report, the request for council approval, right? And Dima, you were just describing the deck that you put together, and maybe that's
I'm looking it up to
document
see
that.
if it has,
Okay.
if it's enough.
just a clarifying question. The previous subcommittee pretty much did all the research, right? Like the research phase is done, so at this point, like the kind of mission of the subcommittee would just be to kind of like finalize and present recommendations, building off of the research that was done last year.
That makes sense.
Like in terms of the, right, meeting like the end goal. The goal would just be making these recommendations.
Finalizing and making recommendations to council on.
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah, first step is though to have council approve you
Right.
reconvening the subcommittee, yes, so.
Right,
But you're talking
telling
about your.
them like, oh, what do we want to do? Like this is. what
Yeah,
we
and
do.
just keeping in mind that they haven't even seen the initial work that had been done last year.
And I think Dima is looking at that now and hoping that it might be in a form that either currently is or could easily be massaged into an attachment to describe, to your report, Carrie, to describe.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't put it as an attachment, I would, because it was work that was done on a previous subcommittee, but I could certainly pull that information from it if it sort of summarizes the work you're planning to do with this subcommittee.
Yeah, I mean, it pretty much does. It's our recommendations. So I think we could just, maybe we just need a couple of bullet points, which is that we want to be able to offer up these recommendations and work with the city to discuss them and see if they can influence the new website.
Yeah, for the purpose of the motion, I think you probably need to go into a little bit more detail right now so that we have it on record so everybody knows what they're voting for in case they weren't part of the subcommittee prior and that sort of thing.
Do you mean I have to go through the actual website?
I think that if you could,
Is the content and design of the website, if I understand correctly?
right, and
Do you
was
have a
there,
description from last year of why you wanted to do this? Because I think that there were like equity reasons that.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at is
The goal of the HRC.
you probably are starting from scratch a little bit. I mean, in terms of the approval, you've already done the work, so once, if the approval comes through, you've got the work done. But in terms of presenting to council, we probably need whatever that motion was last time in terms of what kind of work you wanted to do, your reasons for looking into it, because content and redesign of an entire website really doesn't apply to HRC. So I think we need to pull out sort of what functions of the HRC are applicable in this particular work you are interested in doing.
Right, well, let me just distinguish, if I can here, between the commission's web page, which is something called website, and the city's site more generally.
I keep hearing website. If you're specifically referring to the HRC's web page, that would be a different request, I think.
So most of pretty much it was just the web page. It's, it's hard for me to not distinguish them, to kind of put them a little bit together, because if you're going to build this web page, you would likely want those components to be built for the whole website, just because of how you would build a website. But in terms of what we're recommending, it's purely around issues that we're seeing with the HRC page.
I think that's very, that's clear. So maybe your motion is to convene a subcommittee to review and make recommendations and updates to the Human Relations Commission webpage to include updating language, resources, et cetera, something like that.
Yes.
Sort of design and content, right?
Yeah. Content, accessibility, more information, functionality.
Okay.
Is that a proposal?
So a subcommittee to look at the HRC website and make recommendations on content, accessibility, and functionality. Okay? I mean, should I just make that a motion? Okay.
I thought I heard a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ellie, thank you. Any further conversation or discussion on this? If not, I'll just ask for a vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, none, motion carries unanimously. Carrie, do you need anything else then? on
No,
that?
that's great. We'll bring this forward back to council, and once that's approved, then we can bring it back, just like we did tonight for formation of a subcommittee.
Amazing, thank you.
So then, let's turn, if we can, to the issue of the Civil Rights Committee that we had previously constituted to look into the ways in which we might carry forward or carry out the responsibilities that are assigned to us under the Davis Civil Rights Ordinance and the Municipal Code. This is a committee that worked previously was me, Ellie, and Edgar. We closed that committee out as we did all the other committees, but we, I think, have still work to do in terms of how we carry forward our obligations under that ordinance. So I wanted to suggest that we reconstitute that committee for the purposes of developing an action plan for carrying out the obligations assigned to us under the Civil Rights Ordinance. Are there thoughts about that suggestion? It was fairly non-controversial last time. I'm gathering that it's fairly non-controversial now. If that makes sense, then I think what we want to do is bifurcate this as we have with our other processes and have a separate motion. Maybe we'll take my description just now as a motion. If there's a second for that, then we'll just go ahead with the vote and then talk about the composition.
Kevin, I'm just going to say that'll have to go to council before we create the composition of the subcommittee, just like we did for this webpage one.
Right, except that this is a task to which we have already been assigned by the council under the ordinance. It is not a commission-initiated task. In other words, this is not our idea. We're not saying this is something we should do. We are charged with it, this responsibility under the Civil Rights Ordinance, correct?
This would be part of your work plan items that they haven't directed you to work on, so I would bring it back as part of your additional work plan items to reconvene this subcommittee.
Okay, well, we had a committee on this previously, and we heard no concerns from the city council.
We also had a committee previously on the webpage design that we concluded, so I'm going to follow the process that's been directed to me from our city clerk's office.
Okay, and I'm just going to try to explore this with you a little bit further, because my understanding, having read the commission process memo that was issued a while back, is that tasks that have not been assigned to us by city council that are or by the staff are commission-initiated functions that require approval. Things that we're required to do under law or have already been designated by the city council are not described in the memo. And if you could maybe, Carrie, help me understand, is there something in the memo that covers this that I'm missing?
I'm not prepared to go back and forth on this right now. I will say, as I mentioned at the last meeting, the last time the Civil Rights the subcommittee on this made proposals to our city attorney or to staff, they were given to our city attorney and they're still sitting with our city attorney for review. So that is where the last update from the committee work last time is at. And without that update, I'm unprepared to sort of get into a discussion as to exactly what you guys want to do. I am feeling like I need to, before we form a subcommittee and bring it back, I at least need to go back and check with our clerk's office.
Yeah, just, I want to be super clear about this. We did make a set of recommendations about potential revisions for the council's consideration with respect to the existing ordinance. What we're talking about now is not revisions to the ordinance, it's carrying out the existing obligations, right? So I just want to be super clear, and that's your understanding as well, correct?
I appreciate you further exploring or explaining that. As I said, I am in a position right now where I am feeling like I really need to go back to the clerk's office for some clarification on this. I'd be happy to have you guys make a motion right now to reconvene this committee, and we can leave it at that. I can go to the clerk's office, and then we can make the composition next time if they say that it doesn't need to go to council. What I'm saying right now is I am not comfortable just saying that we can move forward with this without me getting some further clarification.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't want to make you uncomfortable about that, so that's fine. It seemed to me, and I'm just reading the process memo, it does not fall under anything that we are initiating on our own. This is not our idea. This is us recognizing that there's an obligation that we are required to comply with, and we are very much wanting to perform our obligations. And obviously, if somebody doesn't want us to do that, then we need to hear that. But
I
that's
understand that. I also, as you had conversations with our city attorney and with our assistant city manager, there were some discrepancies in the understanding of what some of the language in the code meant. And before we move forward with that, I want to make sure that we get those clarified.
Okay. I'm happy to defer on this, and we will ask council for its approval to do what council has directed us to do.
I have a question, sorry. You had a motion, and I'm sorry, I was a little bit distracted. Can you tell us what the motion was again? Because it wasn't to create a subcommittee, right?
Well, indeed, it was to create a committee,
Okay.
to look into developing an action plan to bring back to the commission about how we might carry out that
Ordinance.
that function.
That function. Okay.
So, Carrie, then I guess what you would like us to do is simply to table this and have it on the agenda for the next.
Sure, you can make the motion to make the subcommittee right now, and I can bring it back to the clerk's office and talk to them a little bit more.
Okay.
And if they say bring it to council, I'll bring it to council. If they say you can just, nope, it's fine, then we'll bring it back to the next meeting and you can decide who's going to be on it then.
Yeah, it seems worth voting for it now, so you don't have to wait again. We just vote for it and then see if there's even a faster route.
Makes sense. Okay. Okay. Then let's go ahead. Is there any further questions, comments, etc.? Okay. If not, let's go ahead then and take that vote. Is there? I'll ask for a second. Because I don't think you've heard one.
I can second.
Kim or Felix, or both. Okay.
Can I clarify who moved and seconded?
I'll be the mover, and Dima, I think, was the second. And Felix was the second. Okay. All then in favor then, signify aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? And the motion. Abstention by Mr. Cole. Thank you. Okay. I think then we may have concluded with this item unless there are other proposals for addition to the plan. I think we've got enough maybe to get us underway at this point. And we will move then to item 6C. This is committee updates. And we will start with the Campus Council on Community and Diversity, which I don't know if they've had a chance to meet yet.
No, and I will hopefully get to connect with Michael after this to talk about when the first meeting is.
Sure. The email will go out tomorrow, and I made sure that you are now officially the representative that will be sitting in the council. And the email tomorrow will include all of the dates and also include the agenda items for the first meeting, which will be in October. So welcome, Elliot. Welcome, Mr. Alter.
All right. Thank you. Moving on then to 8-3 Together. This is Dima.
Great. Yeah, so we actually had, since coming into being the representative from Hate Free Together, for the Aid Commission at Hate Free Together, I've actually was a representative before, but wearing a different hat. So now I'm wearing the HRC hat in that group, and we had a meeting, I think it was last week, with Jenny Tan leading that. There's going to be a summit that they're going to have, which I think is going to be very valuable and help sort of talk through what people are seeing within our community around not only resources, but issues within the community and how people feel that we can potentially work on those together as different organizations. I also mentioned in the meeting that I would provide updates on what's happening in HRC. And also the other way around, this particular meeting was treated a little bit like a get to know each other first kind of meeting, just because I think it's a reset after having a little bit of a longer break. But my plan is to also bring back anything that comes from that meeting. So the biggest part of the meeting this last time was just talking about that summit. Yeah, so I'll just plan to be bringing things back and forth. And Hilda, they did mention that if you wanted to join the meeting, that would also be fine. I think that there was some sense that if I'm there, you're sort of like a community member, so can't be the sort of HRC rep, but it would keep you, I thought it would be a good idea to keep you, if you wanted to be there, sort of that way there's continuity and you know what's going on or if I can't make it, it's not like all new. So I asked if that was okay, and they said that that was possible, just that you would be kind of as a community member if I'm there. When I'm not there, you're wearing your HRC hat.
Okay, questions for Dima? Thank you, Dima, for that report and for the work that you're doing there. Next up, we have the MLK Junior Celebration Planning Committee. And before I forget, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that somewhere here we might be plugging in Sawyer if she wants to be a member of any of the planning committees that you are entitled to be part of. No pressure, but.
And that's what I was going to say, no updates, but if Sawyer wanted to join, we'd be happy to have you. The three that you could potentially join would be the Martin Luther King celebration, which happens on Martin Luther King Day at the Vets Memorial, and it's like a big event. The Cesar Chavez celebration, which will happen in the springtime, and it's also a big event. And then the Tom Hine Awards, which is being part of an awards planning group, and then choosing the actual recipients of the awards. So you could hear us all check in, and then maybe say if you have a preference or something, but nothing to report on MLK, but we're about to jump right in with both feet, I can tell you that.
All right, thank you very much, Lainey. You guys did a great job last year. We're looking forward to that again. Next is the Cesar Chavez Celebration Planning Committee. Mrs. Hilda and me. We have not yet met because that event is still a ways off, but look forward to future updates and if there's anything you want to add. Okay. Let's.
What's the date exactly?
Well, we don't have a definite date yet. That's one of the things that we're going to have to figure out. We sometimes have to work around the spring break schedule, which usually falls around that And I don't think we have clarity on that. We also have to work with the farmers market folks to make sure that, because that's where the event is held, unless we have rain. But to be determined April-ish. Okay. Now we then have the Tonga Win Awards Planning Committee, Dima, Amir, me, and Jasmine. We have not met, and that's an event also that will not be happening until the spring. So having further updates as things develop. Let me stop then and ask if there's any public comment on this item. Mr. Marks.
Alan Miller, it's really stupid to have a committee movement concept about tolerance that has the word hate in it. Hate-free doesn't exist. It still is rooted in hate.
All right, thank you for your comment. No comment here. All right, moving on then, that concludes item 6C, unless we have any kind of further input from Sawyer?
I'm not sure what the process would be for joining one of those, but I would be interested in being part of the MLK planning committee.
Okay, I think the committee would be interested in having you.
We need a motion and vote on that? First, okay. I would like to motion that Sawyer Vaugh is added to the MLK Planning Committee.
Okay, I see a second.
I'll second that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Sawyer. And
Just an observation, because the subcommittees are ad hoc, they don't have to follow Brown Act. So you actually can invite members of the public to come in and participate, proactively do that. It's pretty easy. And you don't need to take minutes or notes or anything like that. I know this because when they did the I-80 planning, all the discussion about this $460 million project was done in subcommittees with no notes and no records and whatever. It was pretty amazing. So you guys should feel free to, in your subcommittees, invite people. You can invite me, I know, or Alan Miller, or other people who you want to add color and interest to your group, or experts even. Maybe that. Interesting idea. Thank you very much.
I promise not to talk about I-80. Okay, there is a motion and a second to have Sawyer join the MLK Planning Committee. Thank you, Sawyer. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, and that motion carries unanimously. Welcome, Sawyer, and thank you for stepping up. Okay, then we are next at item 6D, determining November and December meeting dates. Kira, do you want to get us started on that?
Sure, I'd love to. And I actually had another thought when you were talking about your Sanctuary City kind of work that you're doing. So as you guys know, our November and December meeting dates fall on City Hall or city closure dates. So we always change those dates. Sometimes we make them earlier in the month. Sometimes we combine them into one meeting between those 2 months. Sometimes we've canceled. You know, there's a variety of options. One thing that occurred to me is we could, instead of having an end of the October meeting, and I might have slight ulterior motive for this, so I'll confess that out loud for everybody to hear. We're having a little bit of staffing issue for that meeting, but we can make it happen if it's, you know, if we still want to have October meeting. But one thought I had is if you guys did want a little bit more time for the subcommittee work that you're doing, and we need to change the November meeting date anyway, we could look to an early November date and then maybe like a mid-December date. So that gives us, you know, closer to 5 to 6 weeks before the next meeting, and then, you know, maybe have another 5 weeks between meetings as well, since we have to adjust all of the dates anyway. So that is something you could consider, and I think in looking at And I'd have to find room availability and stuff, but I didn't start doing that yet because I actually wanted to talk with you guys to see, sorry, computers being finicky. Just trying to get into a calendar, is that you could look to have a meeting maybe the week of November 3rd, which would give you 2 extra weeks. That would give you 6 weeks. And, you know.
We're currently scheduled for October 30th, is that right?
No, October 23rd.
Oh, it's the 4th.
Because it's the 4th of
Yes.
Monday. So that would give you 6 weeks. And then if we did it the first week in November, if that works for your guys' schedule, we could then look to, you know, maybe the 2nd or 3rd week of December, with the exception of December 11th, because I have a conflict that I can't do. So just a thought I wanted to throw out there for you guys.
Okay. And the thought is November 6th instead of
Yeah, and that's
23rd.
pending room availability. So I think what I would ask you guys to do is maybe look at, you know, seeing if the 5th or the 6th was available. We could also look to the following week if you wanted to. And we can't do the 4th, obviously, that's a council meeting. And then looking at the week of the 8th or the 15th of December, minus December 11th.
Okay, thoughts on that as people check their.
Yeah, November is fine for me, but I, pretty much starting December 11th and forward, I'm gonna be out of town.
Okay, and Ellie, as much as we love having you here, we just need to have a quorum.
Yeah, so for me,
You're out of pocket all of December, I think is what you're saying?
no, I could do the 8th, 9th, or 10th of that week.
Okay. Okay, others?
I think I can do any of the proposed dates in there with enough notice to get it on my calendar.
So we're looking at November 5th and 6th, right?
5th or 6th.
For that kind of earlier one. And then we're looking at December, I'm sorry, Carrie, did you basically say the week of December 8th?
I said we could look at the week of December 8th or the week of the 15th. The only exception is not on December 11th.
And we want to try, if we can, to include Ellie, who is out after the
11th?
No.
Oh, wait, when was it? Sorry, I
Yeah,
thought it was the 11th
starting,
on.
like, starting the 11th and forward.
So we should look at the 9th and 10th.
Well, can't be the 9th, because that, well, I don't know, that's the Tuesday, but maybe not a council.
How about the
meeting.
10th?
But it could be the 10th, or it could be the previous week.
Yep, that's fine.
And Carrie, that first week in December is possible?
Yeah, with the exception of Tuesday, because it's a council night. But yeah, it's all, you know, as I said, pending room availability. So actually me having a couple of options to look into works well.
So we won't be able to settle on specific dates tonight, and we won't reconvene until that next meeting. So I think maybe can we just, Carrie, once you have clarity on this, could you reach out to us to nail down
Yes, I think that maybe what we could do is, for the purpose of, you know, having information in the public, is saying right now that we're going to hold our meeting on November 5th or the 6th. And then at our November 5th or 6th meeting, confirm the December date, if that works for you guys. Unless people need to know earlier for the purpose of planning.
Kate was trying to say something.
Just for the purposes of information, the first Thursday of each month is the Board of Education meeting at 6:30 p.m. So that would, I mean, that only includes me and I'm only ex officio, but just to have that on the record.
Thanks, Kate, that's helpful.
So then, I think that's my suggestion, to look at the 5th or 6th, to be determined after Carrie looks into the room availability and she'll let us know. And then we can settle on our December date when we are back together. Okay. Does that make sense? Do you need a formal motion, Carrie?
I guess public comment.
Yes, let's hear public comment. Does anyone ever like to be heard on our meeting minutes? Okay. Seeing no one coming forward, our final agenda item then is number 7, future agenda items and long range.
Kevin, I would like a motion, please.
I'm sorry, your motion.
Oh, sorry, Lisa, we have not done a motion for that type of item before when we don't have a formal date set.
Okay, we have a request for a motion to set our next hearing at November 5th or 6th, depending on room availability to be determined by Carrie. Give a second. Hilda seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Abstentions? None. Okay, we have a motion. All right. Moving on then to future agenda items and long-range calendar. So this is our opportunity to suggest any additional topics that we might want to put forward for future discussion on our long-range calendar. And I'm not seeing any particular needs at this point. I think we've had a good discussion tonight about the things that are on people's mind, but let me just open this up for public comment as well.
I saw this in Berkeley, I was up there for the Jewish high holidays. There was a big banner at a number of churches that said, "Love your neighbor," parents, no exceptions, big banner. Why don't we get a couple of those and hang those at the tunnel at Richards and some other places? Love your neighbor, or wherever you're from, we're glad you're a neighbor. We should put that, if that's what we really think, if that's what we believe is a sanctuary city, we need to put that up loud and proud. Put that on the agenda to discuss doing that. And I will chip in 50% of the cost of the banners. So the city money should not be a problem. I think we can raise the rest of that money. We should have that all over the city. I give out little lawn signs, but I think the city should step up too. And I think this committee is the place it should start. Thank you very much.
Yeah, very gracious, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Hirsch. Mr. Miller.
I'd like to entertain having this committee condemn and ask for the removal of Gary May over the coffee house incident of May 2nd, 2025. I don't know what the difference is between people experiencing men in hoods with no identity in public spaces known as the KKK, and this, a fully masked person in the coffee house, all fully masked. We don't know who they are, and Gary May's university doesn't condemn this, does not go after these people. What is the difference between Jews having to experience, we don't want no two-state, we want all 48? What does that mean? That calls for the elimination of half of my people from where they live. For God's sakes, this needs to be condemned. Gary May needs to be condemned. And I'm asking you, as a Human Relations Committee, to condemn Gary May and the crap at UC Davis! God damn it!
Mr. Miller. No further public comment. We have, I think, concluded our discussion on item 7. Please, Lynn.
Sorry, I might have missed my moment. I'm looking at the annual updates and reviews, and I do see MLK celebration is sort of marked as possibly every month for discussion. But I suspect at the October meeting, it would be good to have an actual item that is the MLK subcommittee. If we need people to vote on anything, we would need it to be separate than just our like update, right? Or if we want to
So for our planning committees, you can certainly have a regular agenda item if you want to talk about it further. Typically, your planning committee just could have an update at the regular item. There isn't anything to vote on for the planning committee. It's just an update, but so it would be up to you if you want to move it up to a real agenda item, if you want to have a more robust discussion for some reason more than an update. But there isn't typically anything to take a motion on in regards to the event itself.
So I'm just thinking like for a theme, for example, if we wanted to have everybody weigh in on a theme.
Sure, yeah, then we would
have
want an agenda item, absolutely. So is that something you're thinking for the early November meeting, Lenny?
We haven't had a chance to think about it too much, but I think we would like our own agenda item, given that would be the point where we'd have to make kind of a lot of decisions that we would carry through. So if there's any moment to get input from everybody, I think that would be it. So,
Thank you for thinking of that, that's great.
okay, thank you.
All right. We are at time, and barring any thing that I'm overlooking, I think we are ready to adjourn. Thank you all. Appreciate all the work that everyone's doing. We look forward to meeting with you again and seeing you in our committees.